So speaking of Saturday, we should maybe do like a test prior to.
Yes. And I was going to send out tomorrow. Go ahead and start thinking about any questions you have for Mr. Meyer.
I've got a few.
Good. If you want to, go ahead and share them so that we can kind of like maybe
think about them more and build.
Yeah, start building a list or whatever. So
yeah.
But I've got a meeting tomorrow, which I plan on probably listening to only about 10% of the time. So I'm hoping part of that I can actually get some work done. So
yeah.
And by work, I mean personal stuff.
Yeah, of course.
So, there she is.
Hi, Jen.
Can you see and hear me?
We can.
Why isn't my camera working? I got a new camera and it's not.
I see.
Is there something over it? Is there?
It's the camera. The camera, like it's reading the wrong camera, even though the other one's in my computer. How do I make it use that one?
You should be able to go to the.
Oh yeah, I see what happened.
Settings. Looks like a gear or whatever, and.
Gwen, are you on an Apple?
No,
she's on a Windows system.
I'll let Eugene help you.
I can't help that much. Go to your. There should be like a gear or something, like over the screen, and you should be able to go like video settings, audio video settings, output, something.
Yeah.
So you move the mouse around, and it'll say audio and video settings.
Yes.
That didn't help. That made it worse. I'm not seeing. Oh, here we go. Settings. Oh wait, did I do it?
There you go.
Can you see me?
Yes, that looks a lot better, girl.
Yeah, I got the one you suggested, and I have to tell you guys the deal I got. So it was $50 on Amazon, and I looked it up online, and they had it at Office Depot. So I traded in a bunch of ink cartridges last month and got $20 off this month.
Nice.
Because I bought this headset, and you have to spend $10. So I got the headset and that for basically the price of just the camera.
She's got all upgraded for the show, so.
Yeah.
We were saying
so official.
Like that pizza shirt is nice.
Thanks.
Yes. We were saying tomorrow, and I mean if you want to tonight, that's fine. But in the back channel, go ahead if you want to. Go ahead and start posting questions you have for. I keep wanting to say Mr. Meyer. I don't know if he's going to want to be called that, but if you want to start posting questions so that we can start building a list of things that we want to ask the dude. So.
Okay.
I'm not going to openly be hostile to him in any way, even though after this book I do have some questions. I'm like, why?
So I'm gonna start the show off by saying this too. So I'm gonna say it here. My feelings about this book proves how well this is written because it made me have feelings towards characters.
You know what? That's a very good point.
So that's why I'm going to say it at the beginning of the show because I have feelings for these characters. These characters are really well written. You care for them. So when this happens, you have a visceral reaction.
Yes.
So you need to remember all that and repeat it on Saturday.
Yes.
Just like that.
I'll let them know. Like, dude, go. It's
not okay.
We are angry at your character's choices, not on you.
Yes, yeah. Exactly.
This is different because there's a difference between this and what's the book where she dies at the end anyway?
Divergent.
Divergent series. So the ending of the Divergent series, the book ends, and it's like, what the fuck did you decide to write that for? Because there is no point to any of it.
Yeah, it makes the rest of the three novels completely moot.
You have completely wiped out everything that I cared about in the wrong way.
Yeah. So at Geek Fest this year, we did a panel called "How Does That Make You Feel? How to Handle Character Deaths," and it was actually a copycat of something that Wizard World did at San Diego because of what's it called? The Avengers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I asked my best friend who's a counselor to, come up with something, and she actually did like the 7 stages of grief, and we all like talked about who are you here for? And
I
was
wanted
like,
to be at that panel, but I couldn't make it. That sounded awesome.
I was like Han Solo and Spidey and Groot.
Aw.
Yeah. And then I should have said the entire expanded universe, but
Yeah.
But it's a real thing. Like
no, it
main
is.
Characters is the thing.
I've cried in books because characters have died. Like I'm just sobbing because I loved these characters so much and they're dead. And I get.
I remember. I don't remember what book it was, but I was sitting there in bed and I was reading my own book or I was watching a video or something like that. And I look over and she's just like, just crying. I'm like, what happened? Oh, I died.
Nothing.
Okay.
Talk about it.
You want to put the book in the freezer?
All right, I have to shoot 2 quick things, then I gotta hit the bathroom quick. Number 1.
Quick, talk. He can't hear us.
I'm almost done with this thing.
Oh,
Nice.
It's all foam.
He's always showing us his wand or his staff or his.
This is gonna be awesome when it's
some
done.
kind of phallic object. He can't hear us.
No, he can't hear any of us.
Yeah.
I can't hear you. No. 2.
Yay! Oh.
Wait, smoke?
There's a hole.
Smoke.
Yeah, now I just need to get a smoke kit for it. Of course, they want like $100 for it, but once I do that, it's gonna be awesome. So, all right, let me go to the bathroom.
That's fun. We should just say everything and then see if he repeats it.
Yeah.
The whole time. Is there a color in your hair, Chris?
Yes.
Is it tinted? Yeah.
Well, what it is, my hair is bleached, and then my best friend's a hairdresser, so she got this really cool shampoo that, depending on how long you leave it in for, depends on how dark and how deep your hair gets.
Oh, it looks cute.
Thank you. She gave me a little bit of it, so I've been experimenting with leave-in times.
Nice.
I feel like I'm like cotton candy marshmallow fairy. Are you getting a snack? Oh no, I'm full.
And then so we can't talk about him anymore. He's back.
No.
I'm back. Yes.
Oh shit, he's back.
Yep, I'm back.
I just had a quick question on the children's behalf. They are very, very, very excited about Saturday. They wanted to know if they could just say hello really quick.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I already told him that we're probably going to be younglings on for at least, if nothing else, to say hi because they're excited about, like I think I wrote 2 of the people on the show have been listening to the book with their kids, and the fact that they're getting to talk to you has made them like super cool.
Yeah.
So
we're getting major points here.
Awesome.
Major points.
I didn't drink it all. Not my fault.
You want a drink?
No, I'm so full. I just had that tea, sweetie.
Tea fills me up. Water with leaves that were like, but I took the leaves out.
I'll tell you when you're safe.
Okay.
Beanie.
Hello.
All right. So we don't have to stay up too late, and I've got a ton of crap to do. I've got so much stuff to get done for Wizard World. It's insane. I basically have to do 3 PowerPoint presentations and get a bunch of other stuff ready. I've somehow or another, I've got to get someone to take a picture. I'm going to be doing a panel, actually possibly 3 panels at Wizard World. I am so excited. I have got to get a picture of me with the little Wizard World thing in front of me. It's going to be so legit. I'm so excited.
Sean and I are trying to figure out how to live down there, but still have access to everything up here.
Yeah. If you figure out that wormhole, let us know. So, all right. Here we go. Muting mics.
You're listening to Marginally Geeky Show, the epically geeky club.
Greetings and welcome to the Marginally Geeky Show, the epically geeky book club. I can't speak tonight. I'm your host for the evening, Eugene Stevens. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Great.
Good.
Great.
Awesome. Good to hear it. Tonight I'm joined by the usual cast and crew that's been here for the other 4 books that we've done. Tonight we are doing the current book in the Magic 2.0 series, Out of Spite, Out of Mind by Scott Meyer. I'm going to announce this multiple times during the show, so just go ahead and get ready. First announcement coming up. Normally we record on a Wednesday night once a month. We have a special episode that is recording. It'll be basically the day after this comes out. So hopefully you listen to this day in, day out that comes out. On Saturday, September 15th, we are at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. We are doing our first author interview, and we are interviewing with Scott Meyer himself.
Yeah.
Cannot wait. This is something that I've wanted to do with this book show before. We had another opportunity, and unfortunately, it just kind of got away from us. Who knows? I may be able to go back and find out. But yeah, it would be cool to not only read the books, enjoy them or hate them, whatever way, and then get to talk to the author, because a lot of times you read a book and you have questions. Why did you do that? Why did this character do that? So
Why do you hate us?
and this is one of those books that is that way. So since we talked last time, has anything been going on, group?
Started.
Oh yeah, school's back.
School's back in. Yep. So
I had to work nights again, and I'm still coming and recovering from that.
oh yeah,
I think Geek Fest happened since the last time, right?
Geek Fest happened since the last time we were there. So
Big thing, yeah.
yeah, it's a little
We
thing.
survived.
Yes, and it's technically not Geek Fest anymore. It's actually the Epically Geeky Expo. So I don't know if we announced that on this show. I know we announced it on the other one. So, but yeah, so lots of big things happening here. We're getting author interviews. We're working with an awesome convention, and yeah, let's just see what we can keep doing. So, we have a lot to say on this book, so let's go ahead and just jump right into it. As we did last time, please stop me, talk, share your opinions and thoughts. Because I tried not to go too in depth on the notes until we get to the end, because I wanted to make sure I kept everything straight. Because there was a lot of stuff going on. All right.
Video camera and some music to go choreography wise.
Oh geez, I wish. So the book starts out. Brit the Elder returns home. It picks up right after the previous book. At the end of the last book, Brit the Elder goes to visit Brit the Younger and starts talking to her, and it was like, oh, it's too bad about Kluge, he not accepting the thing. And Brit the Younger's like, no, he accepted. And she's like, oh, JK, I was just messing with you. She tells her to get out, and Brit the Elder walks out and is just like, oh shit, something is wrong. And this book picks up exactly then. She goes home. She thinks about it. She's like, okay, maybe I just misremembered it. And we find out that Brit the Younger has been keeping a journal of pretty much everything. And Brit the Elder has been reading it.
How convenient.
Yes, which
For
is
the
how
plot.
she remembers everything. And she goes back and she looks in the book, and sure enough, she didn't misremember it. It's written differently than things happened. And then she goes to, she starts freaking out. I love the way he wrote this, that she was expressing the word shit in 18 syllables, because we've all been there before. Yeah. And then it really hits the fan when she notices her foot keeps itching, and she looks down, and her foot basically pixelates like an old timey video game and then flips back, which of course that would be what really sent me over. I'd be like, oh damn. We switch over to Martin and Gwen. They're at Brit the Younger's house. Martin accidentally proposes. Gwen doesn't want to talk about it. They get to Brit's, and Martin basically goes through the door to see Phillip. Should we talk about? Yeah, let's go ahead and address this now. I understand where my boy Martin's coming from. He just, number one of the reasons I like Martin as a character is he doesn't play games. He's very upfront. He's very honest and open with his feelings. And I mean, and that was one of the things that was in the other books. He's like,
He may not think all the time.
No. He doesn't think all the time, but he also doesn't play games. He's flat out told, Gwen, I like you. I want to be with you. I think we have a future together. I can see us going, for the long haul. And the way it kind of came out was a kind of an accidental proposal. Didn't go over well. I also understand her viewpoint in that she's like, well, this isn't, this is something we haven't really talked about. And now you've kind of put me in a place. I don't know. Thoughts?
I just feel like every time things start to get a little serious, she freaks out and acts like kind of childish. Like she can't talk about it. I don't want to think about that. That's too, like that's what got on my nerves with that whole situation. It's like, just be an adult and talk about your relationship. And if you want to marry him, great. If you don't, then say that, but don't just, we're not going to talk about it. Like, I hate that.
But unfortunately, there are a lot of people like that. And I do know a few. It's just like, just say how you feel. It's not, yes, it's hard, but it's a lot harder playing games and not saying anything.
Yep.
It's almost like she's trying to protect herself, that if she doesn't actually admit it, it can't come back and hurt her.
Right.
Yeah. But she's never going to get anything good either if she doesn't.
No.
Yeah.
She does all the good stuff.
Now that you're mentioning that, I almost wonder if in this next book we're going to find out a little bit more of her backstory as to maybe she was like, maybe that's partially how she found the file. Maybe she got seriously hurt in a relationship, and it's been a while, but
there has to be some mental baggage that has caused her to be so closed off and so scared to open herself up again.
Yeah. Maybe we should ask about that. Okay. So he goes, Martin goes through the door, finds Phil playing golf, tells him about it, his fight with Gwen. Phil basically says, him and Brit work hard to avoid any drama. So that's why their relationship works so well. Foreshadowing. They hear a knock at the door. Martin sees these kids running off with this package. And, he yells at them and they kind of lie or whatever. And he tells Phil, he's like, these kids just robbed from you. And he's like, who cares? I'm a wizard. I can make whatever I want. It doesn't matter, Martin. And he sees a character in a cloak that kind of disappears. And he starts to explain what it was that he saw. And Philip's like, so you saw a Jawa? And he's like, no, it wasn't a Jawa. I didn't see a Jawa. He's like, okay. And then the girls show up. They're like, what's going on? It's like, Martin saw a Jawa. And he's like, I didn't see a Jawa. But yeah, so, we've got something else going on here. Once again, now we're going to fly this. The reason one of the other things I love about this book is that it's written very much like I feel a TV show of it would be. And we've talked about how we'd like to see this as a live action TV show. Because at this point we, switch over to another characters. And here comes Ray's favorite two characters probably in the book.
Oh, no idea how much these characters bring him joy. He just
Miller and Murphy are sitting in a car in Reno, watching Jimmy walk in and out. Jimmy gets into a car. Miller starts their car and it dies. And Miller goes into the back and there's a banana in the tailpipe. And people, of course, like, dude, you fell for the banana in the tailpipe thing. He's like, yes, we've all seen the movie. And yes, it doesn't supposed to work, but it does. And you can tell they're just getting tired of it because he throws it in the back of the car and there's like a mountain of bananas.
Yeah.
So Jimmy is just screwing with these guys. All right. Martin, Gwen, Brit, and Phil fly to Gary's. They see Hubert is waiting. I loved this little subplot too. They see Hubert waiting at the front door, and Gary's like, "Go away. I don't want to talk to you. Just leave me alone." And for whatever reason, Hubert's gotten this idea that since he had the magical idol in the last book, that he could learn magic. So he's trying to get Gary to teach him magic. Which, let's be honest, anything Gary could offer him has got to be better than Dung Sifter.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
That's just.
Yeah. So they go in. They see a kiddie pool filled with concrete. Jeff and Roy appear. They fall into the concrete. It instantly hardens. They disappear. Come back. They They said that Brit the Elder showed up to talk to them and seemed like she was kind of like not right in sorts. Tyler shows up once again in the concrete, disappears, comes back cleaned up or whatever, and they decide they're going to watch Blade Runner. And not only are they going to watch Blade Runner, the idea is they're going, for movie night, they're going to end up watching like every version of Blade Runner, which I'll be honest with you, I've only seen, I think, one version of Blade Runner, and I'm pretty good. Enjoyed it for what it was. I don't need to see the 15 different versions of Blade Runner. So, let's see here. Okay. Brit the Much Elder. So now we have a third Brit. Brit the Much Elder is the director of some kind.
I can't. I just can't. With all the fucking
this was good to elicit that from you. Brit the Much Elder is a director. She tells someone on the phone that they just need to do their job, suck it up. This is your position. Just do it. And Brit the Elder has come to her. She hates coming to her though, but she's like, I've got to talk to someone. Basically this is happening to me. I'm coming to check with you to see if it's happened to you. Obviously it's not. So obviously things get fixed. How does it get fixed? And Brit the Much Elder's like, I don't know. I don't remember this happening. And basically tell her just because it's, happening to, Brit the Much Elder doesn't mean it's going to necessarily happen. She doesn't know exactly how this works. She's like, listen, the same exact stuff you've been telling Brit the Younger doesn't really apply here. This is different. I love this too. All right. So we go back. Phil decides he's going to go for a walk. And runs into Martin. Martin keeps going on and on about this Jawa, this character that he saw or whatever. And he's like, Phil, listen, he was trying to mess with you. And they keep walking around and seeing all these odd things. There's a giant boot up on a pole. There's a giant stone ball that is oddly positioned.
I totally figured this out.
How long did it take you before you figured it out? It took me about 3 clues and I knew exactly what it was.
I think it was 2 or 3 and I was like, that's fucking Mousetrap. And then he was like, I don't get it. What is it? I was yelling at the phone like, idiot.
There's the boot. As soon as I was like, there's a boot. Oh God, Mousetrap.
Mousetrap. Yep. Exactly. So anyway, they activate the Mousetrap and the giant cage falls on Phillip and he doesn't really care. He's preoccupied. He just kind of, he teleports away. But Martin ends up catching the Jawa and the hood comes off and it turns out it's not a Jawa, it's a goblin. All right. Yeah, he uses a pants wetting spell after being told that he isn't trying to hurt Phil, and to leave him alone. The goblin then ends up sicking a bunch of crows on him, which basically tear Martin's robe almost to pieces. But the goblin ends up getting away.
I will say I liked Martin's spells in this one where he's trying to be creative in the way of I want to make you discomfort. Like don't want you to be comfortable. I need you to understand what I can do to you, but I don't want to hurt you. So
and it's also the thing. Well, I think he even says he's like, we really can't we can hurt each other, but we can't permanently harm each other. So what else can we do? Oh, I know I can embarrass the shit out of you. That's a thing. So let's see here. So Brit talks to Brit the Elder. She asks him about Klooge again. He tells her about the memory problem, which he's just like, well, that's pretty heavy. That also means that I'm right. Like all this time I've been hypothesizing I'm right. And she's like, no, this doesn't mean you're right, Phil. This means there's a problem with the code. Then she tells him to look at her feet. And when he does, he's like, okay, this is where it's getting real. Let's see here. And then here's where things start to get. Here's where the crux of the whole book comes in. Brit the Elder tells Phil, I need your help. This could be a major, major issue. This could end up causing all of reality as we know to collapse in on itself because this is a problem with the code that runs the universe. By the way, you can't tell Brit the Elder any of this.
Brit the Younger.
And Brit the Younger, I'm sorry. And he's just like, I can't do this. That's not right. I'm not going to do this. And she's like, Phil, if we end up getting together in the same room, what if it caused all of, reality to stop and we all that's it. It destroys the universe. So it's like, well, you kind of put me between a rock and a hard place. Not tell my girlfriend about what I'm doing, which isn't necessarily the same thing as lying. It's just kind of omitting the truth, or risking all of reality.
Yeah.
So that sucked. And I feel bad I already started feeling bad for Phil at that point.
As soon as he was put in that position, it's like, dude, tell her.
Yes.
That's
so
dude, just say, Brit the Younger, say to Brit, listen, there's something going on. I have to work with Brit the Elder right now. There is a potential for the world to, end because of this. If you two get together, it could cause even more harm. That's why I'm doing this.
That's all he had to say.
If he had said that,
yeah,
Brit the Younger probably would have said, "Oh, what the fuck's going on?" And then all of it goes away from him, and he doesn't have to deal with the rest of this book.
Which is why, in the outcome of this book, unfortunately, Phil is not completely blameless, but.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah. All right. Back over to your two favorite characters, Miller and Murphy. They're trying to follow Jimmy. The car won't start. It won't unfog. At this point, not only is there banana appearing in the tailpipe, but now the car fogs up to the point they can't even freaking see out the window. And Jimmy just kind of goes back into the building. And Miller, honestly, no. Which one's the laid back one? Miller, right?
Murphy.
Murphy's already understands what's going on. He's like, Miller, he's just screwing with us. Like,
yes, with us, man.
Yes.
He knows we're here. No, he doesn't. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but he is so focused. He is going to get Jimmy one way or the other. Let's see here. Martin materializes in Gary's cave. Gary's training Hubert to become his butler, or his butler, or however Hubert says it.
He can't say the word.
He can't say it.
He can never say it.
Yeah. He calls an emergency meeting with Gwen, Jeff, Roy, and Tyler. And he tells them, listen, Phil's being attacked. Like, someone is going after Phil. And they're like, well, what happened? Is Phil okay? They're like, yeah, he's fine. All right. Well, what'd they do? Well, it didn't really hurt him. They didn't really get attacked, did he? Like, they're tearing poor Martin's argument apart. But I mean, he's in the right place. He's trying to warn him, hey, something possibly bad is going to happen to Phil. And they're not taking it seriously at all. They're just like constantly like, it's not that bad. Obviously he's not trying to kill Phil. Why are you messing with him?
That's kind of the story of Martin's life though, right? Like, never taken seriously, always kind of brushed aside. Poor Martin.
Yeah. So yeah, they're not taking it seriously. And at this point, other young men have shown up at Gary's place because Hubert has spread the word that, Gary's going to teach me magic. So all of these other young men that have horrible jobs are like, no, I'd rather learn magic than, cleaning hides or whatever else it was they were doing. I remember the list. I was like, yeah, I'd rather do that too. So,
and see, stuff like that is what, when I think about medieval England or the past in general, I think that's something I would do, like if I was, because it sucked back then.
Oh yeah.
I'd be like, hey, can I get in on this better situation? And I love that he brings that up in the books, like common sense things that you don't really see a lot in movies and books and stuff.
Yeah. Listen, it royally sucks back then. I don't know. Maybe do something else. Anything else?
I don't want to sip poop anymore.
Yeah. Please not sip poop anymore.
Yeah. Let's see here. Phil teleports back to Brit the Younger, tells her perhaps she should avoid Brit the Elder. Brit the Younger says, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And he looks at her face and he basically knows. He's just like, oh great, this is not good. This is not good.
It's not going well.
This is not going to end well. So, Martin takes Gwen's advice and tries to contact Phillip in the future. That's what Gwen basically told him. She's like, listen, if you're so worried about Phillip, why don't you go flash forward a little bit, go ask Phillip what happened, and then you can come back and save him. So Martin tries to do this and gets rerouted to a large theater, and Sid and Gilbert show up. And I'm just like, yes, Sid and Gilbert.
The magicians who don't do magic.
Yes. And they have two assistants that come out and they deliver. There's this very overly done, drawn out magic trick that in the end just simply presents a letter from Phil to Martin saying, Martin, leave it alone. I'm fine. Anytime you try to do this again, you're going to end up right back here. He doesn't believe him, tries it. Sure enough, he shows back up. And they're like, should we reset for the show? And he's like, no, and just disappears.
Can I just say, during this time, I really didn't like how Gwen was treating Martin. Like,
Yeah, same.
they had their fight and everything, but she was just not forthcoming with her feelings at all, and Martin's just sitting there like, all I did was tell you how I felt, and you're giving me shit over that.
Yeah.
And she won't talk to him, won't even acknowledge his existence, and that really bothered me on this one too.
Yeah.
Agreed. I think I sent Eugene a message at one point and was like, Gwen's really a bitch, isn't she? Like halfway through the book. I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah, Gwen was playing some head games with Martin a bit, and I didn't like that. And
we've had this conversation on other shows. You know, I try to be very open and honest. So playing games and stuff like that are not something I deal with very well. And this is, plus I like Martin as a character. And like I said, I sympathize with Martin as being just pretty open book.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So and then as we were driving home, actually, we re-listened to the book and we just finished it on the way home tonight. And as we were talking about it, it was like, okay, I know that they technically are ageless now, right? But they kind of stopped aging as well when they were early 20s.
Right.
So, how was I in my early 20s? How was she in her early 20s?
Oh, God.
So it's like, you know what? I can kind of see why Gwen was doing this, and I can see
Head game queen over here.
so I see that now looking back, but yeah, I still didn't like it.
So Ray, have you always been pretty open about feelings and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I'm looking at a little bit of a Martin Gwen situation here on the screen.
No,
maybe.
No, I was more like teenage head games. Like I
Okay.
pick a fight and hang up the phone. And
okay.
Well, no, she would try and prove that she wasn't good for me, and she wanted to make sure that if this was to break up, it was me breaking up with her, so that I'd be the asshole.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's how I rolled.
And she got pissed off that I didn't leave.
No, he was like, it's kind of like the whole Martin. Like, no, we're meant to be together, so just shut up and let it happen. Stop it.
Good for you, sir.
Basically what it was.
She came around.
Let's see here. Martin takes Gwen's advice. Okay, so let's see here. Phil walks back to Brit's and disappears, not seeing the 16-ton pyramid above his head, which Martin catches. The goblet's saying he's just trying to distract Phil. He's not trying to harm Phil because he can't hurt Phil. Phil's a wizard. He can't hurt him. He's just trying to distract him from thinking about what he's thinking about. Martin hits him with an itching spell, and he counters with a rat spell. And it's at this point, he's like, the rats really can't hurt me, but the rats gnaw through the floor. I thought that was an interesting take on it. And like he keeps dropping floor by floor by floor by floor. He ends up flying back up, and he sees this giant eagle appear. And it starts flying towards him, and he's like, what does it do? The rats didn't do anything. The crows didn't do anything. What's the giant eagle going to do? And the goblin's like, boy, you are self-conceited. The eagle is not for you. And it picks him up and flies off with him.
Yeah.
He gives chase, and he's like, you could have just disappeared. And he's like, yeah, you're right. But I was trying to add a little bit more style to it, and then disappears. Let's see here. So Phil shows, okay. I'm not scrolling up enough. Miller and Murphy sit in a different car, still fogging up, still having bananas in the tailpipe. And now this time when Jimmy walks out, they're trying to follow him, and they're like, no, he's over there. No, he's over there. And they get to looking, and everyone's face turns to Jimmy.
I love that.
This is the Mo episode in The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Homer.
I have to say, as the books have gone on, Jimmy has grown on me more and more, and this type of stuff makes me like Jimmy. I'm sorry.
Yes, and you know what? You can see an overarching story. It's like a redemption story for Jimmy, right? He really fucked up. And then even with Todd, right? He's not quite there yet. This is one where I'm like, okay, he's starting to become the person that he wants to be, in that he's trying to be helpful, but still have fun.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I like Jimmy in this one. This was good.
All right, so Phil ends up working 9 hours going through files. He ends up working with the Brits. Well, I need to clarify. With Brit the Elder and Brit the much elder. He ends up working 9 hours looking at backlog stuff from Brit the Younger.
Did I miss the part? Did you guys talk about how he gets to the future?
No, you know what? I think I skipped that part somehow.
And you know what? I thought it was really creative.
Yeah, I did skip that part. My apologies.
Yeah, so I thought it was really creative in the way that, basically you're slowing time down for that individual to the point that it's very, weird, and like no perception of time really passes.
Yeah.
And all of this time passes for the rest of the world, which I thought was a really interesting way of doing it. It was, I don't know, it makes the future possible, right? And I thought that was great that they did that. And
he did that. Scott Meyer did that.
That Scott did that, and then and just, I don't know, it was a creative way to continue the story, because I was like, oh, I want to see them now, right? I want to see them in nowadays, and I thought it was really interesting that Brit the Elder has taken this position on herself. She's the head of this, the national, in order to find all these other people, and
yes,
and I love that she's Miller and Murphy's boss.
Yeah, so we get the reveal. You kind of have an idea that that's what's happening, and then you get the flat out reveal that she is Miller and Murphy's boss. And you're like, how did you get stuck with these two idiots? She's like, oh, I specifically sought them out.
But can I just say that the fact that Brit just stuck him in the room and didn't give him any warning or ask, was a little, to me, I don't know, pretentious is the word, but she does it a lot, where she's just like, well, I know best, and she has an argument for everything you say back, and it's like, but that's just rude, like
it is, absolutely. But she did say, even if I told you, would it have made it any better?
Yeah, it's just it's almost like invasive of someone's privacy or personal rights. I don't know, that's how I take it.
I agree.
It made me dislike her even more.
I wonder if because she's so much older, like over the 100 years, she did start to, you know what we said, you just said earlier, it seems like Martin and Gwen, even though they've only been, frozen time wise, maybe a decade, since the books have started, she's been like this for over 100 years. So maybe her personality has evolved, and maybe she literally just looks at them all as kids. I mean,
probably,
because like if you're going to give a kid a shot or something, you don't really say too much. You're just like, all right, listen, this is going to happen. Done. Or, pulling a tooth. You're like, all right, we're going to go on 3. 1, 2, yank.
Yeah.
Or you just yank on 1. That's what she said. Anyway, so yeah. So he wakes up, he wakes up in the future. He ends up working 9 hours going through these backlogs. He ends up trying to go back in time so that he can wake up and make it seem like he just took a nap. Poor Phillip's having to do a lot of time traveling just to try to keep time somewhat relative for him. So, let's see. He ended up going with Brit to the 70s. I think it was funny that they went to the 70s and had a little adventure or whatever, because he was like, I'm gonna go out for a walk, and she's like, I'm gonna come with you and let's make it a day. And he's like, yay, that's awesome. Can I get a quick nap? And ends up like sleeping 9 hours. So, let's see here. The next morning, Martin catches the honey, feathers, and ball bearings that were set out for him, and then he thwarts the fox that was going to come get him, that was going to go after Phil. When the goblin basically, sets all this stuff up, and he was going to tar and feather and cause Phillip to fall, and then a fox was going to chase him. And he's like, that probably wouldn't have worked. And then the fox shows up, and he's like, well, maybe it would have worked. I thought it was interesting that he pulled a glowing moose in as one of his magic spells. The goblin did, which he definitely has a animal motif going on. Let's see here. Martin ends up using what I think he called it the put down spell. Basically, it caused all of these voices to constantly be putting, saying all the stuff that you're just like, was afraid of as a kid or whatever. After a while, yeah, that would probably get really annoying.
I never went to bed.
Yes. He ends up anchoring his shoes to the ground, and the goblin tries to run off, but he can't. And it's at this point he sees that the goblin is wearing British Knights. Boy, talk about a throwback to the 80s. And if they're from the 80s, it's got to be Phil. And Phil looks like hell.
Converse.
No.
They were British Knights.
Oh, okay.
Because I wore Converse for my costume, and I was like, I'm not going to go try to find a pair of BK Knights just for this. So,
yeah, as soon as they start describing what he's wearing, I'm like, the hell's Phil doing?
Exactly. Why is Phil messing with Phil?
Yeah.
Which kind of goes back to Phil's not blameless in this. So, let's see here. Brit the Elder shows up to check on Brit the Elder and Phil. Brit the Elder's legs are now glitching as well, so it's getting worse. They have discussion about Phil and Brit the Younger and what she would think. Let's see here. They want to look okay, and this is where they start having a discussion. They're like, listen, if we were Brit the Younger, which we were, we would think this is perfectly fine. And then he's like, no, I don't think that's the case. And they decide at this point, they're like, we really want to kind of look at Brit the Younger's our Brit the Elder's file. And they're like, we need to, we've talked to some people who have done some stuff, like, and he's like, well, no one would ever, what you're talking about is no one would ever do that. That'd be horrible. No one would ever think to do that. And they're like, well, there's one person. And it's at this point that poor Phillip now learned. Phillip's already Phillip's having a freaking horrible day, or time. He's basically lying to his girlfriend. He's constantly working on a project he doesn't want to have to be part of. And now he finds out his arch nemesis is still alive.
The last to know.
Yeah, and I love that part later on too. So Martin calls Gary from Gary's living room. He sees Gary's talking to 10 men who all want to be his apprentice. Martin tells the other wizards about the goblin is Phil. And they say they're not going to help stop future Phil and basically stop it. Just he says he's trying to prevent a tragedy. Then let him deal with it. Like, you're getting in the way. And of course, Martin's not having that. He's like, no, I'm trying to help my friend.
By helping him.
by stopping his plan. Yes. Phil and Brit the Younger return after their walk. They go to he goes to the bathroom, teleports. Brit the Elder and Brit the Elder meet Phil and Jimmy. Phil's pissed. Brit asks him, he wants to help explore the file. And Jimmy's like, listen, I don't want to show you this. Like, I learned my lesson. I'm not doing this. And when they tell him, listen, we're doing it anyway, that kind of puts him in a bad spot. He's like, well, fine. I'm going to show you what I know just so that you come to realize this is a horrible idea. Don't do this. And it's at that point, Phil's like, oh my God, I agree with Jimmy. What is going on here?
Oh no.
Yeah. Let's see here. Phil pops into his rec room. He goes to the back. He goes back to Brit's through the door. Future Phil watches and says present Phil, didn't notice the Fiero missing. And Martin basically says, listen, I watched you the entire time. Why did you take the Fiero? And he's like, I'm just trying to stop myself from doing what I'm doing now. And it's at this point Martin puts him in a mind box. So he can't talk, he can't move around, he can't do magic. He basically has trapped Phil. Which also, I love the fact that it's future Phil, but later on they just start calling him, because he's looks so run down, they just start calling him Hobo Phil.
Oh, Phil.
Poor Phil. Jimmy walks.
Hobo Phil is the t-shirt. That's awesome.
Yeah. Hobo Phil would be hilarious. Yeah. Jimmy walks to Brit's. Okay, through the door. Yeah, Phil walks to Brit's through the. Okay, Jimmy walks Brit through the parts of the file. Phil thinks he should be nice to Miller and Murphy sitting outside in the car. Phil hates Brit the much elder, being nice to Jimmy, which I'm gonna say this right now. If Brit the Elder, or Brit the much elder, if any three of them end up getting with Jimmy, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah.
Although the way that Brit has acted, there's a little part of me that thinks maybe they're meant to be.
Yeah. She just him.
So, which could be dangerous, because when she learned about Jimmy, one of the first things she said was that he thought too small. And I'm just like, let's see here. Martin appears at Gary's house and lands in the concrete. Gwen appears, same thing. She gives Martin a new robe and smiles. So at this point, things are starting. Enough time has passed. Things are starting to get smoothed out a little bit. Tyler appears, and so does Roy and Jeff. And it's at this point he produces Hobo Phil in the box. And he says, they ask him, they're like, so, what's going on? And they're like, why are you doing this? He's like, well, Martin's right. Yes, I am trying to stop, your Phil. But no one can help me. I have to do this on myself, by myself. Here's where things really start to pick up. So Phil appears in an alleyway, turns towards Brit's house, and Brit the Younger and a second Brit the Younger are standing there. They ask him what he's been doing and discuss a timing issue between the two. One of them has a camera and is taking down notes while the other one is talking.
Yes.
And I'm just like, all right, so we've got Brit the Elder, Brit the much elder, Brit the Younger, and Brit the Younger times 2.
Too many.
Well, no, you haven't told her yet. You've told me, but you haven't told her yet.
Yes. So obviously she's a little bit future.
Yeah.
She's a little bit future version of Brit the Younger. So Brit, like I said, I'm just going to call her Brit the Younger part 2.
The 20 minutes younger.
Yeah. Jesus. So they go back to her apartment. Oh, go on.
I was going to say, he says that at one point. He's like, Brit the 20 minutes older or something.
Something, yeah.
5 of them. Stupid.
Brit says that she will go ask Brit the Elder, and he tells her not to. She asks him if she's been cheating on him with Brit the Elder. Phil says he would never cheat and wants Brit the Elder and wants to bring Brit the Elder into this once Brit the Younger knows. So basically he's just like, I will tell you as soon as I can, but I'm not cheating on you. I would never cheat on you.
Can I just say that I felt bad for Phil as well when he goes to the future and then he sees Brit the much elder and he's like, that's not fair. You wouldn't told another Brit. You knew about this other Brit. You spoke to her, but you're not letting me talk to Brit the Younger? Like, that's, fuck you.
And then when he brings that up, well, then why don't I tell her now? They're like, well, what if all 3 of us are what triggers it? And he's just like, well, what do I do now? I mean, yes, seriously, that could be a possibility, but exactly. There was a somewhat obscene gesture just made. So, Gwen tells Martin, so she's finally opening up. Gwen tells Martin she might want to marry him. And he's like, yes, absolutely. Yes, I want to marry you. And she wants to have kids. And he's like, yes, so do I. This is a natural conversation you have when you're in a relationship with someone. And she says she wants to have 2. He said, yep, absolutely. And then she says, and I think we should give up our powers when we do this, because I don't want to raise children that are all powerful and can have anything, because we've seen what reality TV does to kids like that. And I'm like, Fuck, that's a good argument.
It's not good.
And she tells him this and then transports away. And then Martin realizes future Phil has heard the whole thing. And he's just like, you heard that, didn't you? And he's like, yep. All right. So we're going to stop right here for a second and have a quick discussion. What do you think about this plan on Gwen's part about if they have kids, they need to give up their powers at least for a while until the kids are grown?
You know what? I probably would do the same thing in the way of that way you're raising a couple of kids that see a normal world, and you want it to be as normal as possible when they're kids, because exactly what she's worried about, right? If you raise them and they know that there's
basically omnipotent.
Yeah, like you'd be raising a couple of Qs.
Yeah, kind of.
And they're assholes. They don't give a shit about people. And, it's hard to, if you don't have that, like you can stop your aging again, after a couple of years. And once the kids get a little bit older, you can stop your aging again. And there might be
I don't even think they have to give up their aging, honestly. Because, I don't think the kids are going to perceive it that much. But
that's what they're doing, is they have to age. She even says that, like, she wants to pause their aging or restart their aging again and age with the kids and then pause it again later. And
I forgot that part.
Yeah. So I understand why she wants that. And I would agree to certain terms, but when they turn 16 or whatever, start talking about what's really going on, and then you can open them up into smaller things. And
oh God, a 16-year-old with a file.
Okay, well, not 16, but wait till they're 20.
Well, they could put them on training wheels.
Yeah.
Here's a magic hat you can get some burritos out of.
They could teach them how to code and see if they find it themselves.
Yes, see if they actually want to code.
Yeah. But with two parents like them, I'm sure they could.
Real quick, our friend Richard is joining us. He just now joined us in the show. He's currently in Abu Dhabi, so
cool.
That's interesting.
Sweet.
And he's talking a little bit about the 70s strip, like Austin Powers, but so, Mandy, you've been pretty quiet. Thoughts on this one?
I liked it. I did. I agree with Gwen's being unpleasant, but now we know why. So, and I think it's a lot like raising kids with money. You just, they're going to be spoiled somehow. So maybe like hold a little bit back. Like you said, just introduce it as they mature. And I think if they want to code on their own, that's a good reason to introduce them to it. If they don't want to code, maybe they don't get those powers.
Yeah, you kind of have to understand them to use them.
I would do a couple of things, right? Like, without telling them, I would make it so that they wouldn't die.
There are a couple things. Yeah,
a couple things that I would
feel
do.
the pain. You got to
feel the pain.
Feel the pain.
But don't tell them that they're not going to die. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. The aging is what gets me. Like, maybe the only reason why I say that is because I'm 40. I'm 41 in a couple of days here, and I'm like, would I really want to age another 16 years before I stop the aging process again? I'm thinking maybe 5 years, skip a year, 5 years, skip a year.
But they're 22 and 23.
True, they are in their 20s. They would be fine when they hit their 30s.
But your body still breaks down. Like,
it does.
In your 20s, it's prime. Like, you can do everything. You don't get tired or as creaky or as...
Though.
Yeah, but if you don't have to do it...
maybe skip every other year. So maybe only age 5 or 8 years.
But that's what I mean. Is you come up with some ground rules of, okay, every second birthday we
skip a year or something. Yeah. Okay.
Just pause it for
every leap year.
Yes.
There you go.
Every leap year we add a year.
Yeah. Okay. Real quick before we get back on track, there's one other question I have for you. If I remember correctly, Gwen found the file in the 90s or early 2000s, and Martin found it about a decade later, I think. So how do you decide where you live? Because I'm assuming they're going to go back to one of their times.
Well, they talk about it at the end of the book.
What did they say? I don't remember.
Oh,
okay.
She's
So
explaining
so she finds
The
it.
wedding.
She finds it later, like she's in the 2010s sometime, and he finds it in like the 2000s or something like that.
No, he
Or
finds it in 2012.
okay.
I thought he was in modern day, or
He's
modern day. So
maybe it wasn't that big a
what I
difference.
remember is they're going to Alaska in order to. She says bring them up to her time.
Okay, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not
So
by much.
No, it's not by much.
Because
So
Tyler's the one that's the most future.
yes.
In any case,
Yes.
I would say just from a technology / social / everything, I would definitely go to the later date.
Yes.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So.
And I would too.
It'd be easier to catch up than go back and miss all the stuff you're so used to.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, like I can't wait for the friggin' iPhone to come out. You're like, what the hell are you talking about?
Exactly. Yeah. Because you would slip so much. You'd be like,
yeah.
"Geez, yeah,
Maybe you go work for Apple and get this going a bit early.
yeah, exactly." So, okay. So that was a quick conversation. All right. So let's see here.
Oh,
Before you do that too, since we're on the topic anyway, when Martin goes back into or tries to go in the future and he gets the magic show, did you guys pick up on the hint then?
mm-mm.
No, I did not. Now, and of course, you're talking about the assistants that were like, well, so what did you think of him? And they're like,
He's
well,
kinda dumb.
kind of he's not. And they're like, well, he was young. Now,
Really?
here's the other thing. Previously, Sid and Gilbert have kind of been douchebags. Like, but they even said, they're like, how are we not friends? And he's like, well, maybe we are friends and we're just messing with you. Did you ever think that's a possibility? Didn't really come across it that way, but
yeah.
But they even say he was young, and when you're younger, you're very emotional and stuff. And they were like kind of taking up for him. And I'm like, okay, this is weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I have one more thing going back to the living in the future or the present, whatever. So I had some issues with that at first. I was like, I don't know if I'd want to give up my ability to be wherever, do whatever. But then when you think about it in terms of they can live forever, they're just basically giving up 10, 15 years, whatever they decide to do. Okay, that makes it a little more bearable. So when you put it in that context of like,
And again, I'm sure you could turn the aging on without having to, like, you don't die, right? Like there's
obviously, yeah.
Well, and I think they could probably make themselves look like they're aging without actually physically aging, right? Like get out of wrinkles or gray hair or whatever. So that might be a workaround for, Eugene's issue.
Except for whenever they go, oh, by the way, we're wizards, and this has just been. I'm actually look like this.
That'd be weird.
That would be weird. Mom, Dad, you're like, what? Yeah. Let's see here. Phil appears at Brit the Elder's house. He hears a weird sound. Brit is frozen in front of her computer. And he basically looks at the file, and she was messing with her file. Surprise, surprise, and screwed something up. And he looks at the floor, and it's starting to glitch as well. And he hears the noises actually coming from her. And then he looks at his hand, and his hand is starting to glitch as well. So now things are starting to really take off. It's at this point he ropes everyone in. So all the wizards show up at Brit the Elder's house. Brit the Younger is angry at Phil for not telling him, which we knew what was going to happen. Phil grabs Brit the much elder and brings her back, to look at it. Brit the Younger is pissed at Phil for hanging out with both of these other Brits, and now things are even worse. And then Brit the much elder goes to get Jimmy, and oh my God, I love this scene. And Phil's like, all right, everyone, I need to prepare you for a surprise. I don't know how you're going to handle this. Jimmy's still alive. And they're like, yeah, we know. We used to, we hang out with him from time to time. Even fucking Tyler is like, yeah, after a while you got Lego your anger. And he's actually kind of a cool dude.
The guy that he ghosted.
Yeah. We hang out once a week.
Yeah, and talk about books and stuff that we like. And it's just, yeah.
Turns out we have a lot in common.
That cracked me up. I think that's another reason why I could start to like Jimmy, because I'm like, well, if all the other characters are going to find the good side of him,
See Tyler. Like, if Tyler let this go, all right.
Yeah. Let's see here. Jimmy and Louisa show up. They've roped Louisa in here, and they're basically like, it may take a while to fix Brit the Elder. And they've come up with this idea for testing. Brit the Younger says, listen, how long is this going to take? And they're like, well, there's stages. There's like, a stage may take 6 months to a year. And they're like, well, how many stages on there? And they're like, well, there's like 13 stages. And she goes, all right, this is going to take like a decade, and I'm going to have to do all the work. And they're like, no, we'll help you. And she's like, no, this is going to be a pastime thing for you. This is going to be all consuming for me for like the next however many years. And then it's at this point that Nick calls Brit the Younger's butler and is like, hey, listen, something really bad's happening. Something weird is happening to the house. So they run down the hall and they see, oh, look, the entire house is starting to glitch like, Brit was. So all the wizards get out of the house. Let's see here.
Evacuation.
Yeah, they start an evacuation. They're like, okay, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? And another fucking copy of Brit the Younger shows up. And she basically hands the other Brit a clipboard and a pen and says, start taking notes. And this kind of broke my brain a little bit. That as it's happening, she's writing it so that the other one will know it. And I'm just like, I don't know if time works this way, but obviously,
rather than recording it or any other more, feasible means of documenting what's happening.
Take out your phone and just doop.
Yeah. No.
But anyway, so they start moving all the people up and out of Atlantis. Martin actually thinks ahead for the first time ever. They go up and they try to commandeer a boat, and the guy's being a douchebag. So he copies the boat, makes a bunch of copies of it, and tells the people, get on those. And of course, the douchebag captain's like, well, I own those too now.
You just my boat. Those are my boats.
Yeah. I thought that was funny. But like, he's like, he just stops and isn't doing anything. And Phillip's like, Martin, what are you doing? He's like, I'm taking a second and I'm thinking ahead. And he's like, wow, okay. Good going, dude. So let's see here. So they get everyone out of Atlantis. And the wizards head to Gary's house. I still love the fact that like Gary's house is the place to be now.
Yeah.
The Brits start working on the problem while everyone else is hanging out. Jimmy and Louisa show up and say the fix can take months or years. Another Brit shows up from a few minutes in the future, puts everyone in a mind box except for Brit the Younger and Brit the much elder. Brit the much elder asked Brit the Younger, trying to keep this straight, why she did it. She explains everyone kept her from doing this. And then she locks Brit the much elder into a mind box as well. She tries to execute and copy a piece of code, which makes things worse.
So much worse. Yep.
Yeah. So instead of just slightly glitching, like she's just she's going like Minecraft graphics. Like she's just a complete flat blocks.
Another example of how Brit is just doing what the fuck she wants with no regard for anyone else.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not a fan.
Like the gag falls out of her mouth now because
yes,
it's like a sock or something in her mouth. And now there's just a circle where her mouth should be.
Exactly.
Getting noise.
When he was describing this, I pictured a Minecraft character is what I pictured. So, she unlocks everyone at this point. Phil asks Hobo Phil how to fix it. Hobo Phil basically says, you know,
Too late.
You do
it's
nothing.
too late. You do nothing. You can't do it. You don't fix this. You're not going to do anything to help fix this. You've already screwed things up. It's done for. We're done for.
Yeah.
It's over with. And they're like, well, what can we do? Why did you come back here then to try to fix it? And he's like, don't you idiots understand? I have nothing to do with this. I don't help fix this problem at all. This is not the problem I was trying to fix. I was trying to fix me and Brit. And
That was
that's when it
obvious
starts-
from the beginning.
Yeah.
When he's like, it's a terrible travesty. What happened? And I'm like, they break up. Obviously, that's what he's trying to prevent. Because
Yes.
why else would he be so disheveled and distraught?
Exactly. Yeah. It's not like he came back war-torn, Phil, like where he's got, you know, armor and shit, like it's, you know, an apocalyptic, you know, wasteland. He fell apart when he broke up. So
I just wanted to say, like, I get that he was trying to distract Phil, but if you wanted to prove, just throwing this out there, if you wanted to prove free will, wouldn't you go back to yourself and say, hey, if you continue down this path, this is what happens. Change your mind now. Because then you're free. Like
no, I agree. 110%.
if that's what Phil.
Here's where the problem comes in. I don't think he can. I think, unfortunately, something that I like the most about Phil, his belief in free will, is not a thing in these books. I think you are preordained. Like, if it happens, it happens. You cannot go back and change it.
I'm just saying, though, like that should have been his first thought. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway.
And now here's where shit gets real. A new Brit shows up. 5 Brits. 5 Brits.
Too many Brits.
Every time a new Brit showed up, I kept thinking Jen's gonna be pissed.
Take a shot every time a Brit shows up.
this would be a hell of a drinking story.
Oh my god, we need to bring that up to him too. That'd be funny as hell.
How
It
many?
just gets to the point where it's like, can you solve your own problems without another copy of yourself? Honestly,
But
Can you
that's
figure
what
out
she thinks. That's
the
what the
present?
answer is always another Brit.
it doesn't make sense though. Because who
Yeah.
originally figured it out? Where did the solution come from to start with? It's like an endless loop.
Exactly. It's
Mhm.
exactly what it is.
Makes no sense.
So new Brit, aka Angry Brit, shows up with cameras and a boombox and future versions of the rest of the wizards.
She loves this song, by the way.
I do.
Okay.
I
I
do.
did not like this song when it first came out. It has grown on me over time. And once again, we have come to the part of the book that I want more than anything else in the world to see as a TV show.
Yep.
So future the future guys say I'm sorry, future Martin says they're here to get future Phil and they're going to fight. And they're like, why? They're like, because we did. And guess what? It's going to suck. They hit the boombox and on the beats, they start attacking each other. And literally everyone goes after the previous version. They're like, why are you doing this? And they're like, because when we were you, future us came back and did this. So
Also
now it's our
stupid.
turn.
So stupid.
Wait. I like what Gwen does.
Just sit down.
She sits down and talks to herself.
Yeah. What did
Like,
she say? Because boys need to fight to.
Need to be distracted.
Yeah.
I don't even remember it. It was perfect.
Actually, everyone except for the Brits, the Gwens, and the Phils start a choreographed fight. Now something I kind of left out. Brit had this idea about how to stage something earlier on in the book because she starts doing research about
Mhm.
choreographing, and she starts asking questions about like how could you time things to music and stuff like that. And this is obviously how this has come to fruition.
Didn't
But
Phil
yeah.
suggest music?
Yeah.
Do I know? Yeah.
Phil
Well,
was the one.
Phil's part of the fix here. I'm just saying.
So let's see here. Future
Stick up
Martin
for
says the reason why they're here is the whole reason why they're here is to allow this to happen. Brit number 6 shows up, and this is Tired Brit. And Tired Brit gets to work because Tired Brit is Brit the Younger, but 6 years in the future.
8.
8.
8 years in the future. So while all this is going on, she's in the process of fixing everything. The fights are hilarious, by the way.
I like
here's,
one,
Yeah.
2, 3.
yeah.
And lunge, 1, 2, and 3, and lunge, and 1, 2.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love that. Gary's apprentices show up and are like, what do we do? They're like, well, our master's being attacked by our master, so let's kill the other one, and whichever one is strongest will be our new master. So that's their idea. So they take their woodworking tools and begin to attack these other versions, and they've got it set up so that they die in these very cheesy ways. So like one of them is literally being sanded to death. One of them is being like
peeled, yeah, with the
planer.
The planer.
The planer, yeah, being planed to death. So they kill the future versions of all these different characters except for Martin. I don't remember what happens to Martin.
He got a drill in the chest.
Oh, that's right. He gets a drill in the chest, and he starts spewing blood all over, like a freaking what was that? What was that thing you used to hook up to the water outside, and it would go like crazy?
Sprinkler.
Wacky water. That's basically what he's doing. He's just shooting blood everywhere. To the point that Gary's new sunken living room is literally a pool of blood. It's ridiculous. And of course it's getting all over the new carpet that he had set down.
Yes. I do like that all the people from the future showed up with their shoes on.
Oh yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and I have to call Eugene out because I had a party, a game night at my house last weekend, and I posted in the event, please, if it's raining outside, please take your shoes off at the door. And he didn't say, what are you going to have us put them on? A rack or just in a big pile? I was like, you missed the perfect opportunity.
I totally missed it. I felt, when she pointed it out, I was just like, well, crap. I can't believe I missed that.
Right.
It looks like our video is frozen, but the audio is still working. So we're just going to keep going. Maybe it'll get caught up here. Let's see here. So they kill off all the different versions of the future versions of each other. Tired Brit fixes Brit the Elder, and this is where it starts to get. This is where he gets fucked up.
Stupid.
Thank you.
Tired Brit fixes Brit the Elder and says.
Before you go on with this one, before you. I said I was going to mention this, and I haven't yet. So before the show, we were talking, and you when it's a well-written story and well-written characters, you feel for them, and you want and you get involved, and you are emotionally involved with these characters.
Invested, yeah. And
you are invested, absolutely. So I'm full in, and I'm invested with these characters. So when we're about to get into this part, the reason why I had such a hard time with it is because of how well written it is. And so this isn't a shot at Scott Meyer or anything like that. This is a shot at the characters, and that's I'm pissed with the characters in this story. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Brit.
I had to listen to this I listened to this part and then re-listen to it, and I may have listened to it a third time to make sure I caught everything. When Ray finished this part of the book, when Chris and Ray finished this part of the book, they called me. I just happened to be at work in a point where I could talk, and he's like, I have to discuss this with you.
Which we were behind you. I don't know how you held it in.
It was killing me. Like when I finished reading this book, I was like, oh my God, the rest of the group has got to finish this book. All right, here we go. Tired Brit fixes Brit the Elder and says the reason why Hobo Phil looks the way he does is because Brit dumps him and it's his fault. Tired Brit worked for 8 years. Says because of Phil's beliefs, he thought he was sneaking around with someone else. Not another version of her. Let me keep going. Puts code in Brit the Younger, Brit the Elder, and Brit the Much Elder's mind, causing them to remember that Phil cheated on Brit the Younger. Says the glitch in the program was probably due to everyone time traveling and interacting with previous versions of themselves. Tired Brit leaves, and Brit the Elder wakes up. Okay.
So
I have sliced this every way I can think of. Yes, I don't think Phil is 100% innocent in this. He, going back to what we were talking about earlier, he should have just come out to himself and said, listen, stop what you're doing. Go talk to Brit. But he didn't do that. But no matter how you slice this, in my opinion, I understand she worked for 8 years doing this. Doing the same thing, working on a hard project for 8 years, yeah, you're going to have some hard feelings. But you lied to your previous and future versions of yourself by changing their code. Once again, going back to what you were saying, Jen, she just willy-nilly changes people's stuff without talking to them or asking them.
Yep.
She changed all of their versions of code.
But they just accepted it too. Like, I couldn't believe that they were just like, okay, that's what happens. And I'm like, this is fucking bullshit. Like,
so there, yeah, I have a couple of issues with this one. Obviously, I'm for her to make everybody or make herself and the other Brits think that Phil cheated on her, and he never did. Like, fuck you for that. Sorry.
Yes.
right.
Like. Oh, so the only thing that I can think of here is that she's upset with the idea that Phil had, right? In the way that Phil was so adamant that he believed that she had free will, that she believed it, right? She was trying to believe that she didn't have to be Brit the Elder, but she was proven wrong in this case, and so now she's just accepted it. And so she felt hurt by that. And she was like, the only way that I can hurt him back is by doing this. That's the only rationale that I have with this.
And that's the same conclusion I came to, is that she's more so hurt by the idea that free will essentially doesn't, at least in this instance. Who knows? It's, it's a book series. But in this instance, there doesn't seem to be a case of free will. Everything is pretty much preordained. It happened. You can't get out of it. And that hurts so much that you're right. The only way she could lash out was at Phil by changing this code. But like you said, Jen, the fact that she changed not only her previous version, but her 2 future versions' memories as well to alter the code is just like, that's bullshit. I want to know, why hasn't no one else stepped up and said...
And that's the other part that I had a really hard time with is Martin and Roy and all of them are just like, dude, just let it go. It's like, no, fuck you. I'd be on Phil's side in this one. Like, you can't make everybody else think that he's cheated when he didn't.
Exactly.
Well, okay, so 2 things, I guess. First of all, she claims that the reason she's breaking up with him isn't because she thought he cheated. It's because he didn't stand up for what he believed in, blah, blah, blah. I feel like that's a flimsy excuse. And I would have been upset if he had, hidden that from me if I was in her shoes. But I would have also realized, hey, he was doing the best he could at the time. He made a mistake and forgiven him for that and moved on. If you love the guy enough, then you overlook that stuff and you work through it.
The possibility of all of reality collapsing in on itself,
right,
kind of trumps, I don't like you hanging out with this other person.
Well, I mean, in hindsight, yeah, maybe he jumped to the extreme, or he didn't need to believe the other 2 Brits, but he was in a really bad situation. He had 2 of her telling him something, and anyway, so I was totally on his side with that. I thought that was total bullshit the way she acted. But then, like, the fact that she was just like, well, this is what I have to do, and she accepted and everybody accepted. And it's like, no, you don't have to do it. Like, change your mind for once, be an independent thinker and do something different. And maybe you can have a happy ending with this guy that you supposedly loved, Like, yeah, I lost a lot of respect for her in this book.
Her and again the other characters are not sticking up for him, and I think that's what I have a harder time about.
Yeah,
is that they're all just accepting it because well that's what happened.
Well, and they're just like, oh, it's just a breakup, it's fine, but like he really loved this girl, and breakups suck, like.
Well, especially the way it goes down. They all heard that
Yeah.
he didn't cheat, and she's making them all think, well, making all the Brits think that he did, and that's
Yeah. And Brit the much elder even said, like, when she found out, she was like, wow, so you didn't cheat on me all this time, I thought. And then she turned around 2 seconds later and that was a bunch of bullshit. I don't know why they went along with it.
Yeah, if I was one of the other characters, I would have had to say something. Unless we're forgetting something, or there was an action that would be like, well, then you might undo all of this, in which case that would be the only reason. Like if there was some way that saying something would undo the fix and cause everything to happen again, then maybe, but I don't see how that would happen.
So if it were me and I was Martin, sorry, were you guys?
No, okay. Go ahead, dude.
If it were me and I was Martin, I'd be telling them, listen, if a woman is going to do this to you, you deserve better. Like there wasn't even that conversation. But if they had that, like if Martin would have pulled him aside and said, listen, I know this sucks. I know this you're hurting right now, but you're better off because she did this to you. And she's making the rest of herself think that you cheated when you didn't. She doesn't deserve you if that's what she's going to do to you.
It's just spiteful, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the way I would have spun it if I was one of his friends. But yeah. Anyway, as you can tell, there's some feels.
There's some feels here, and the thing that complicates it more than anything else is the fact that you go back to the fact that this isn't like, your girlfriend's most hated enemy is telling you not to tell your girlfriend. This is your girlfriend telling you not to tell your girlfriend. Like, this is a really fucking weird situation.
Yeah.
Well, and when she asks him, were you cheating on me? And he's like, no, I would never. And she's like, she asked, what did she say? That it's like a catch-22. She's like, oh, so you would never cheat on me with me? And he's like, fuck, how do I answer this?
Exactly, yes.
It's one of those, you can't ask somebody something like that.
He was going to sound like a dick to her.
Yes.
Right? Like he phrased that question in such a way like he could never answer it. It was an impossible question to answer without him coming out looking like a dick in her eyes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I don't think he was going to be able to sidestep this question, but at least Martin sidestepped it at least once in one of the previous books. He just flat out called out, you're asking for a yes or no answer on a multiple choice.
Yes.
But we knew something was going to happen because they weren't together when we meet Brit the Elder, right? Like we expected something.
I was just thinking it was going to be much further in the future,
and not as shitty.
Yeah,
or just be like it just didn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Like they had lived together, like they had lived for so long that they outlived each other, right? Like it just parting of the ways.
Split up in a different way.
But not
this
like douchebag way.
Douchebag.
Although it would make sense as to why Brit the Elder has mostly nothing but, kind of happy thoughts towards him when she meets him, because it's so much time has passed since then she's gotten over it. But
not now.
No. All right. So Hubert and the others talk to Gary, and they basically decide they don't want to be wizards because this is really messed up stuff.
Like, we're good.
Yeah, I've never actually killed someone, so
tell me that hard pass.
I'm gonna go back to slopping pigs.
Backbreaking work in the.
Yeah, except for Hubert. Hubert says, "Can he stay on to be his butler?" And he's like, "Sure, you can stay on to be my butler." Which I'm like, "Yay, happy ending for
Buster,
Hubert."
Can I be your Buster?
Yeah, the Buster. That's what it was. Yeah. Martin goes to Phil's. Phil's listening to Phil Collins. Of course he is. Phil says he's going to try to go back and fix things, and Martin's just like, "Dude, it's not going to work." But he knows it's going to happen because it's going to happen. Miller and Murphy sit in a car with a bunch of rotten bananas. Brit the much elder shows up and basically tells them, to go into the building, and she's reassigning them to a different job, and they get really excited about it. And then she starts explaining they're going to be helping a contractor who's going to, has certain abilities and can find certain people. And the whole time Miller's just like, nope. And of course it's Jimmy. Jimmy walks out and he's like, "Hey guys, we're going to be working together again. Isn't it awesome?" And then they take, let's see here.
Then
They take them upstairs to the new penthouse that Jimmy has created for them. And it's very like Western style. And I can never get him straight. Miller or Murphy?
Murphy
is like digging it. It's like his dream come true.
I feel like a 9-year-old boy again.
Yeah. So we gotta.
The other guy's like, I'm allergic to smoke.
Yes, we have a somewhat happy ending for those two, at least one of them. I mean, I don't think Miller's ever going to be happy.
No.
I am very excited for where that part of the story is going.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right, then we come to the conclusion. The Grand Hall of Castle Camelot with a fake crowd. Everyone is dressed up like from the movie Dune. Martin and Gwen get married with Phil, who is sad, and Brit as the best man / maid of honor. Phil compliments Brit the Younger. She walks off. Brit the Elder, says it's going to take time to, forgive, but she's never going to forget. And we'll eventually think of him as a friend again. Gwen explains to Gary that the reason why they're having this marriage is because they're going to have the real ceremony in the future. And he's like, oh, well, that makes sense why you're doing it here and dressed up and everything, because, we won't be invited to that one. And, of course, several of the other wizards kind of look at each other like, you're not going to be invited to that one. Sorry, Gary. Let's see. And then they're going to have a traditional wedding in their own time.
Can I just say, this would have all made a lot more sense to me if I had actually seen the movie Dune.
Yes,
exactly. I think I've seen it once, and it's been forever. I was like, okay, sure.
Yeah, I was like, if this is Star Wars, I'd get it.
Oh, hell yeah. If this was Star Wars, totally would have got it. But... or Lord of the Rings, or one of 1,000 other things.
Anything less obscure than Dune, yeah.
Yeah. And then we wrap up the book. Gil and Sid are sitting up in the rafters with the boy and the girl, their apprentices. The boy and girl are surprised by Martin and Gwen being so frivolous, and that they're reminded that they were young. They say they can't believe that their enemy was invited to the wedding. Sid and Gilbert say they need to know who Martin and Gwen are if they were ever going to be able to save their parents. Dun dun dun.
Who's the enemy, you guys?
Okay, so
Phil? Is it Phil?
No, it cannot be Phil.
They fucked him up, Phil. So he might be downward spiral.
No, I have two theories on this one. So if they go the Phil route, then it's him going down a spiral of him trying to prove that there's free will.
If it's Phil, I'm fucking rage quitting this book series.
Yes, I know.
Like, I will call Scott Meyer up after the fact and be like, "You're a douche." Click.
So I don't think it's going to be Phil. What I am interested though is and I can't remember which book it's in, but Jimmy's talking to the guys, and he says, "Well, Gary's his worst enemy. I'm at least an adequate enemy, but Gary's his worst enemy."
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And all he says is, like, they're friends. And he says, "Yeah, but that makes him the worst enemy." So,
when was this in the?
It's in one of the books. I can't remember.
When they go back to, like, for the convention.
No, this is one of the This is either at the beginning of this book or at the last of the previous books.
I think it's in an Unwelcome Quest.
I think so too, where he says, "No, I'm one of his greatest enemies."
Yes.
Gary's his worst enemy.
Yeah.
And so there's that conversation. So there might be something there.
See, he didn't say that Jimmy was there, so I was like, I wonder if it was Jimmy, but I don't think Jimmy was at the wedding.
I bet it's Brit, fucking Brit. She's screwing shit up for everybody.
Oh, geez, what if it is Brit?
You've seen Brit the Elder and...
But things are different.
Brit the Elder was there. I don't know. I'm still leaning towards Gary, just because of what they...
Gary's just so stupid.
And I like Gary. I don't want Gary to be the bad guy.
He's just so dumb.
He is dumb, but he cracks me up.
But, like, is he a formidable enemy if he's that dumb? Like, I don't know.
No.
Not unless something changes.
But does he fuck up in the way of, he's trying to get them back for the wedding, not being invited to the real wedding?
Oh, God.
It's something gone wrong?
Mm.
See, I don't see him being vindictive about that, though. He'd probably be like, good, I didn't have to attend the boring-ass wedding. I got to go to the good one.
Yeah.
Wearing what did he wear?
A one piece. And even he was like, I don't feel quite right about
Good.
this.
It's like, I'm just going to stand over here.
Yeah. I don't know.
So-
It's I hope they don't go the Phil route. I really don't. I like Tyler.
The kids will rage quit the book.
Oh yes.
Oh,
they're upset by that one.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I don't know, and I told y'all this, but we haven't said it on the show. So doing a little research, trying to get a hold of Mr. Meyer as we were doing our cosplay. Yeah, apparently on one of his sites or something, it says that he's planning on, at least for right now, there's only going to be 6 books in the series, and the last 3 were written all at the same time. So the 6th one is technically written. It's probably just being edited and polished and
read.
So questions to ask him next Saturday.
Oh yes. So when can
Who
we
is
expect
the
the next
enemy?
one?
Yeah.
Oh, if nothing else, when can we expect the next book? Like
Yeah.
Come on, dude. Come on.
Understanding you can't tell us who the enemy is.
Yes. Listen,
Spoiler
I'm
alert.
just going to name a bunch of months that are coming up, and if you happen to wink, just say. What's going to suck is I'm going to get up to 2020, and he's still going to be like,
Yeah.
like, no.
So, Mandy, what did you think of the book?
Yeah, you've been very quiet.
We've rambled on about this in anger.
Sorry. No, I wasn't that upset.
She's used to crappy character turns.
Well, like I said, okay. So yeah, let's get to the point where overall, this is my least favorite of the 5, and it's mainly just because of the way that I've been left feeling. The 6th book could come out. Things could turn out very pleasant, and it could be like, okay, this isn't. I'm not going to put this on the level of Empire, but I'm just saying this is the dark version, and we've got to get through the darkness to get to the light. Okay, that's fine. But as it stands right now, yeah, this is my least favorite of the 5. It did have some very funny moments. I liked the whole mousetrap thing. I would love to see the whole choreographed fight. I think that would be hilarious. I would love to see 5 or 6 copies of the same person done well on a TV show. I think that would be hilarious. But
And someone with bags under her eyes.
Yes, especially yes. But yeah, so and you know when you look at the cover of the book, you see all these different versions of Brits, and you're like, why is that one dressed in a suit? Why does that, like, everyone, they're all, and of course they're wearing hats. They don't normally wear hats in the book, but the one's tired Brit, her hat's like all flopped over. She looks like she's been to hell and back. And I'm just like, what's going on here? And of course you get to this point and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So, but overall, yeah, this was my least favorite of the 5 books. But this will also depend on what happens in the 6th one. So, Ray, final thoughts.
Dude, I loved it. I mean, as much as a feel that I had for this one, and I hated it, and I still hate it. I think that Phil's going to be fine. I think Phil's going to get over her and realize that he's better off, and I hope that they write in a new character for him, and that's what I hope for.
That's why Brit becomes the bad guy.
And maybe it is. Maybe her and Jimmy get together and become bad people, and that's what happens. I'm excited for where the story is going. I really love, the Miller and Murphy stuff in this one was fantastic.
Yes.
And I can't wait to see that team up again. I can't wait to see that as a Netflix series. Jimmy just fucking with them, and the baby's face is his like. I
forgot about the baby.
Oh yeah, is his face too, right? Like, there was so many good moments in this one, and I did enjoy the story. They got to use some really cool new magic as well. The wind your own personal wind tunnel from Martin.
Oh yeah.
That was fantastic. And the choreographed fight was again, like you said, it's something I want to see. I thought it was great. Yeah. The worst one in the series for me is still probably An Unwelcome Quest, just because of how it was an interesting idea, but there was no magic. There was no, time travel. There was nothing like that. This one just was so creative. I really enjoyed it. So,
Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah.
I like this one better than the last one. And I'll agree with Ray that the Unwelcome Quest is still not my favorite, only because I'm not a gamer and it's just, I don't get quest games. So it's kind of boring for me. But this one, this was the one that I had such a, like, I wanted to punch our little touch screen, because I'm just like, fuck you. Like, there was like,
we listened to this in the car, right? So
yeah, we're listening to it on Audible, and I can't throw the book. I can't do anything. I'm just like, because I want to throat punch Brit. But I did like the Miller and Murphy stuff. I did like the twist that Brit is their boss. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I do like Jimmy in this one. He's growing on me like a fungus. He's kind of funny.
Oh yeah.
I just like he's the one I think that's grown the most throughout all of these is him. And yeah, and I like that Martin and Gwen got married.
Yay!
I think
and they're gonna have kids.
And they're gonna have babies. And one's gonna be just like Martin and the other one's gonna be just like Gwen.
Yep.
Yep. But I'm really excited to see where he takes it.
Yeah.
Yes. Jen, thoughts?
I don't really have anything to add that I haven't already said throughout the podcast.
Okay, good deal.
Brit, and I feel bad for Phil, and this probably would not be one of my favorites just because of, all the shit the characters I liked had to go through, and I don't deal well with, characters I like being killed off, whether it's emotionally or physically or, just put through misery.
Infinity War.
Yes. Yes. I have a hard time appreciating the other aspects of a story when the characters I like aren't treated well. So.
Gotcha. Mandy, final thoughts?
Why was Brit working on this choreography at the beginning? Like, why was...
I think she just had it as an idea for something to do, but I don't think she had a specific plan.
Are you thinking she went back to tell herself that?
It was planted so early in the story. I'm like, what is she up to? And then it ended up being part of the final scene, but how would she have known that? I don't know.
She said that she was working on a new way of solving issues, and that's when she started recording and making notes. So she would always pop back, and they were doing tests. And then when they first confront Phil, they're doing the counting test. And one Brit looked at the other one and said, "Did you notice that we were off?" And she said, "Yeah, we got to fix that issue." So it was explained somewhere in there that it's her way of finding a fix for some of these issues, because they're always finding trouble in some way. So
yeah, I just wondered about the original cause of the glitch and like why she was so motivated to work on this thing that would eventually fix the glitch before she knew about the glitch. I don't know. I feel like there might be more there. And
there could be. Because we still don't technically know what caused the glitch. It's just probably because of so much time travel.
She was saying something, like Brit had said something along the lines of, we are the glitch, in the way that we aren't supposed to be time traveling. This code isn't meant for whoever wrote this, didn't intend for us to do this. She did say, though, that the error in the code wasn't where they thought it was, and that's all she said.
You know what I just realized? I am so invested in finding out what happens to the characters that I've completely lost interest in what the code is and who made it and everything. Like, I guess if we find that information out, I'll be like, okay. I hope everyone turns out happy. That's all I care about at this point.
I don't think it needs to be said. I think it's kind of.
I don't either.
Right, where I don't need that. No.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things in Lost that you needed answered that they didn't.
Okay.
Show.
All right. With that, we'll go ahead and move on. Has anyone been reading anything else? I have been reading. Like, I've been going back and reading stuff I've already read, but that's it. I have not read anything new.
Nah.
I'm partway through Origin, which is the Dan Brown book, another Robert Langdon book.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm partway through that one. I'm interested. Like I said, I'm about halfway through it right now. So actually, when we get off this one, that's where I'm going to go, is start reading that one again, because I've had some good parts. So I like Robert Langdon. I like the character Robert Langdon, and I don't mind his series. I know a lot of people hate Dan Brown's books.
Dan Brown.
I like Dan Brown's books. I read all of them up until the last couple that he did. But
okay. Did you read what's it called?
The first two?
No. The not Origin, but the one previous.
No, I didn't read.
She froze up.
One after.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, you're back. I lost what you said.
Oh, I've read I think Angels and Demons and the Da Vinci Code, but then I didn't read the one after that.
Okay, so there's two more after that one.
Yeah, I haven't read them.
They did make a movie off of the not the third book, but the fourth one, where they're going to release the virus and stuff like that. They changed the ending in the movie.
Everything.
I really enjoyed the ending in the book a lot more than the movie ending. So, yeah, we'll have to read that one sometime.
Okay. Randy, you read anything else?
I read this really sad book about the death penalty called Just Mercy. Don't really want to talk about that one. I also read Juliet Naked when the movie came out, because that's just like Ethan Hawke 90s goodness. He's just born for that role. So I enjoyed it.
Very cool.
The movie looks good.
We do not have a book for next month. School is starting. We just finished Geek Fest. I have Comic-Con coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend. So we're taking a month off, letting everyone kind of get back into the swing of things. As soon as we figure out what our next book will be, we will announce it on all the social media so everyone can get caught up. So hell, we don't even know what we're reading next.
But you get a bonus episode with the author. So like I said, once again, if you are listening to this on Friday when it comes out, the next day, Saturday, September 15th, we will be doing a live interview at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard.
No.
6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Central Standard Time.
7 Eastern.
Yes. We'll be doing an interview with Scott Meyer, the author of these books, and a couple of his other books. In fact, he's written some other books. I've read several of them. One of them I think y'all would really like. It's called The Authorities. I may have to try to sell you on that one because what's his name? The same voice actor who does these books does it as well. So you kind of get to hear some of the voices in here repurposed a little different, but it's still very humorous. I don't know. I'll have to talk to y'all about this, whether or not the kids can listen to this one. So,
okay.
Just because of the beginning part, the rest of it's fine. But anyway, So anyway, we're doing an interview. So if nothing else, check that out. It will be on the stream sometime next week. So as always, you can find us at Epically Geeky on epicallygeeky.com, at Epically Geeky on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Where can we find you online, Ray?
So on Instagram, you can find me Lake Life Artist. Other than that, you can find me on Epically Geeky or the Marginally Geeky. Someday, maybe at the expo. We'll see what happens there.
Oh, well, okay. Hey,
gonna have to try and get down there someday.
Yes.
But yeah, that's just trying to hang it around here.
Very cool, Chris.
On Instagram at Cedar Birch Cottage, here, Marginally Geeky, and Epically Geeky, and very soon, Sustainably Geeky.
It's coming. We're working on it. It's just we've got to get through it.
Yeah. And that's it.
Cool. Jennifer, where can we find you?
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Het's Gonna Be Me, and of course, Epically Geeky, Marginally Geeky, and soon Sustainably Geeky, the Everyday Environmentalist podcast. We'll be dropping on you soon.
Mandy, where can we find you?
I just switched an Instagram account. It's Clover Press Books, and then Twitter is Mandy Jo Shelton.
Very cool. You're going to have to tell us a little bit about that one. And then, as always, you can follow my individual wacky adventure online at Optimus Gene on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For everyone on the site, have a good night.